seemed like I had it all. I did everything a man's supposed to do in pursuit of the American dream. Then on a fateful vacation to London, it all fell apart. All of it. What if you did everything you were supposed to do? Got married, bought a house, had a child, even a touch of economic security, and then had it all disintegrate in front of your eyes? I decided that if my life had been turned upside down, my only option was to live as if everything were opposite. Instead of doing, I started being, and the results were dramatic. My name is Timothy Thomas, and since May 2006, I have been a single dad and a professional female impersonator known as Miss Anita Goodmann. Although this profession is not the one that pays my bills, it is the one that feeds my soul. Tonight I'm going to share some stories from the secret diaries of Anita Goodmann, a glimpse into a life that, as I turned 37, was my birthday present to myself.
Was inevitable. I knew my priorities were completely conflicted when I was late for work yet again because I was buying cotton balls and nail polish remover at the drugstore next to my office. My cuticles had been stained from the hastily applied coats of nail polish that were part of my preparation and costume for playing hostess to a burlesque show. I'd already all but promised my employers that my days as a drag queen were going to be coming to an end, and yet here I was, completely exhausted on a Friday morning at 9:45, trying to get the last vestiges of eyeliner and glitter and nail polish off my My many late arrivals, the long-winded midday phone calls with the burlesque show producer, and getting caught making 25-color printouts of my latest Anita Goodmann photo shoot on the company printer around the office. Compounded by my protracted divorce and the newfound responsibilities of being the sole caregiver to a preschooler, I wondered how much longer I could hang on to my job. One would think that holding on to a position that paid $80,000 a year would be my top priority, and yet I was living for the rush of getting into costume and bringing Miss Anita Goodmann into the world for yet another visit. I was voting with my mascara brush, and anyone could see who was ahead of the polls. Despite being something of a loose cannon around the consultancy, let's call it Achilles Corp. I did have my fans, and I'd often reward them with autographed pictures of me printed on the company printer, of course, and the occasional lunchtime concert of a DVD from a recent performance, because I figured by being open and above board, I could render any rumors powerless, because, you know, I was doing what I was doing. Meanwhile, at home, things were going so well, I had to cancel a meeting with an important client in order to play with my son in a sandbox because my future ex-wife had decided that it was important for her to go on a week-long junket to Turkey without telling me. And I can remember sitting there watching him play while a client yelled at me over the phone, wondering where I was, and I couldn't explain a thing. Despite the fact that my job was teetering on the brink, the planning committee for the company holiday party approached me. They wanted to know if I might like to perform. I thought that was a terrible idea at first, and then I thought I might have some fun, and to be honest, I didn't know how much longer I was going to be able to hold on to that job anyway. So I accepted. So the first entry from the secret diaries of Anita Goodmann this evening is some video from that performance, which was at the EMP Sky Church. And I did do all of the expected holiday classics, but then I added in one more song, which, amazingly enough, as if by the hand of God, led me to each of the founding partners of the corporation. The hands that fed me, and I bit them.
I'll let you all know that I might not be the only cross-dresser at business, I'm just the most well-known. I'm just trying to pave the way. Next year, we'll see what it's like next year. I'll be like elbowing them out of the way, probably. I have one more song for you all, and then we'll move on to the dancing, alright? This song is my show closer. Then I'm at the Bedroom Club on Wednesdays at the Last Supper Club, which I hope you come down and see now that I'm about to show you. You walked into the party like you were walking onto a yacht. Your hat strategically dipped below one eye. Your scarlet was apricot. You had one eye in the mirror as you watched yourself go by, and all of the girls dreamed that they'd be your partner, they'd be your partner, and you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain. I'll bet you think this song is about you, don't you, don't you? Well, you had me several years ago when I was the naive. You said that we had such a pretty pair, and that you would never leave. But you gave away everything, and one of them was me. I had some dreams that were clouds in my coffee, clouds in my coffee, and you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain. I'll bet you think this song is about you. Don't you, don't you, don't you know? Now, listen here this time to the song. You don't last terribly long, but I'll you know around to the different people. Here's the audience. This is where we go around. You need to do this. To a woman who taught me how to cover my ass. Is this it? I had some dreams that were clouds in my coffee, clouds in my coffee, and you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain. I'll bet you think this song is about you. Don't you, don't you? I heard you went up to Saratoga, and your horse naturally won. Then you flew your Learjet up to Nova Scotia to catch the total eclipse of the sun. You're where you should be all the time, and when you're not, you're with some Underwood spy. Walk for the close friend, and you're so vain. You're so vain. I'll bet you think this song is about you. Don't you, don't you, don't you know? You probably think the song is about you. You're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. Thank you very much. Well, it only took a couple more rumors of me being a jerk around the office for things to get rolling. As for me, I was really unhappy with my life, and I was desperately afraid that I was going to have to lose that job or keep the job. I couldn't decide which was worse. My boss, my newest boss, was a professional project manager, very proud that that was the one thing she was super good at. She pulled me aside and brought me into an office one day, and she says, "Tim, I have something important to tell you. No one wants to work with you." And
And I said, did you talk to the people I'm working with? And she says, let's not get too busy on this. Just trust me when I tell you. And one more thing, don't talk to anyone about this. So the first thing I did is go all around the floor asking people if they had trouble working with me, and nobody seemed to know what the hell I was talking about. But then the next morning when I arrived at the office, I was like Captain Kirk who beamed down to the alternate universe Enterprise where none of the crew was there. The entire floor was empty at 9:15. I went to my desk and I looked at my Outlook and I couldn't see a meeting on my Outlook, so I didn't know what happened. So I made myself look busy at the desk, and 45 minutes later, everyone else in the division came rolling in. Hi, Tim. Tim. Hey, Tim, how's it going? I'm like, this is kind of strange. My one ally and friend came to me and said, I'm going downstairs for a cigarette. Maybe you should come down in just a couple of minutes. So I went downstairs into the basement parking garage, to the far back corner, to the safety area where the smokers were delegated to be smoking troglodytes downstairs. And he said, we just had a meeting. And I'm like, I know. I said, what was it about? He says, you. The whole company or the whole division? He says, yes. I said, what'd they say? He says, they were trying to decide whether you were a good worker or not. And I said, what was the verdict? And he says, it was split. He said, half of the people thought you were the worst worker they'd ever seen and you never did anything, and the other half thought you were awesome. I said, well, that's kind of strange. What do you think they'll do? He says, I don't know. So I went up to my desk and tried to make myself busy. And maybe like an hour later, he comes back by again and says, downstairs, cigarettes. They just asked me what might happen if they told you that, if they laid you off, what you might do. And I said, what did you tell them? And he said, I told them you'd be relieved, and you'd say, where do I sign? And I said, you're right. And the very next morning, sure enough, one of those meetings popped up with no explanation. And they came to me and they sat me down. It was the hardest thing they'd ever done. You know how it is, right? But then, because there was no HR department there, they didn't know exactly what to do with my cross-gender presentation because they thought maybe perhaps I might get litigious. But I live in Seattle and I know that nobody goes back to work after they sue their employer in this tiny town. So I let it go, and they said, you know, no rush, Tim. We're not going to make you put your stuff in a box. You can keep the laptop for a couple days. We all have personal stuff on our laptops, we understand. And I couldn't decide if it was because they were afraid of me or because they liked me. I guess it was split. So I went back to my desk, and I got old Doogie Howser on the desk.
From Tim Thomas, sent Tuesday, February 27th, 2007, 8:24 p.m. to all employees. Subject, goodbye and thank you. I would like to extend my thanks to my many coworkers and friends for my time with Achilles. As of 4 p.m. Tuesday, I am no longer with the organization. I will be in the office briefly on Wednesday to wrap up loose ends and return my laptop. I honestly believe that people are the true wealth of any person or organization. Many of you are among the finest people I've had the honor to work with in my career. For those of you who I've had the pleasure of working with, I want you to know I've treasured the experience. You are my wealth, and I appreciate all you've done for me. Please contact the IMD engagement managers to determine the status of any projects still in progress. If you'd like to contact me in the future, here's my contact information. I look forward to hearing from you. Also, every Wednesday, I'll be in Pioneer Square, as hostess of the Veteran Club. I would love to see you there. Live bravely, fear nothing. Tim.
And I got lots of responses from many of my coworkers, I guess the ones on the you're awesome side and not on the you suck side. And you know, it all worked out for the best, I have to say. And if there's one thing that I find very satisfying, no one who worked with me at Achilles can ever listen to oldies radio and hear Carly Simon without thinking of a certain someone. And that is the sweetest revenge. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping here at my bar.